In the last episode, we talked about the difference between being seen and being witnessed, and we explored why we freeze, why we overthink or disappear. And it's not a character flaw, it's protection. Your system doing exactly what it was built to do. And I ended by saying that when I understood this, I thought the answer was confidence. That one day I would wake up feeling ready and then everything would just flow. Now, I believe that was the wrong goal entirely. And in this episode, I want to show you why. Confidence has become one of those really sought after qualities in personal development and business and generally showing up online. Everyone wants more of it, and we treat it as the thing standing between us and the life we want. If only I were more confident, I would post more. If only I were more confident, I would raise my prices. If I had more confidence, I would finally put myself out there. I hear a different version of this constantly. And the problem is that confidence is a feeling, and feelings, they come and go. And there are people with enormous confidence who still avoid the things that matter most to them. And there's so many people who fake confidence all the time. They're just masking with confidence. And then there are people who are terrified who still do extraordinary things. So confidence is not the thing. Something else is happening. The more I work with creatives and holistic business owners, the more I see the same pattern. The people who move forward are not necessarily the most confident. They're the ones who trust themselves. Confidence comes with a certain amount of certainty, whether it's forced or not. And self-trust is more like saying, I don't know exactly how this will go, but I trust myself to handle it. And the moment you stop waiting for confidence, you stop waiting for the perfect feeling before you act. And you stop waiting for fear to disappear. You stop waiting for some future version of yourself to arrive and finally give yourself permission. Instead, you can start to build evidence through experience. You post the thing, you share the idea, you survive. You launch the offer, you survive. Someone misunderstands or disagree with you, you survive. Someone doesn't like what you have to say and you survive. Every one of those moments becomes evidence, evidence that you can stay connected to yourself. And even when things don't go perfectly, and this is where self-trust starts to build. But even self-trust is not the whole story, because there's another word I come back to again and again, and it's capacity. And most people, when they hear that word, assume I mean doing more, holding more, working harder, being more productive. And that's not exactly what I mean. I remember noticing this very clearly when I was helping my mother bring her work online. My goal was really simple. I just wanted her to reach a minimum income so that she didn't have to keep traveling so much for her work. And eventually we got there. And what surprised me was what happened in my body when we did. I expected to feel excited, relieved, proud, like the goal had been reached. This was supposed to feel good. And instead, I felt a tightness, a constriction in my chest. I was out walking with my dogs and I decided to give myself some recognition for the goal that had been reached. And what I felt was less of a celebration and this tightness in my chest. And I knew what it was. So I started breathing into it. And I started getting tears running down my face. And I was letting it be and giving this space, a little like the exercise we did in episode 2. I was in that moment expanding my capacity. And the thing is, getting something and holding it is not the same thing. And this was actually not my capacity to hold. And we saw this because the results didn't last. And it wasn't because the strategy stopped working or because anything had gone wrong externally. It was because the internal work was actually not mine to do. The presence had been built, the capacity to hold it had not. That experience shaped how I work today. because this is where I actually see many people get stuck. They learn to regulate, they feel better, they calm their nervous system, and then weeks later, they're back in the same pattern. They then assume regulation isn't working, but regulation and reprogramming your subconscious are doing very different jobs. One helps you create safety in the moment, and the other helps change the pattern that keeps recreating that moment. So the nervous system can help you feel safe enough to take that next step. But if you're not doing anything about the subconscious and it's still believing that it's dangerous to be seen, then you'll see the same cycle eventually return. And that's why I work with both. And that's also why I stopped doing done for you visibility work, not because the external results were not real, but because I didn't want to just build a presence for people. I wanted to actually help them build the capacity to hold it. And I think most people, if they're honest, they recognize something of themselves in that story. Maybe not necessarily the specific circumstance, but that feeling of reaching something, a client, a launch, a piece of content, a moment of succeeding in something, and noticing that some part of them didn't quite know how to receive and stay present with it. That's what I mean by capacity. Or rather, that's what happens when capacity has not yet caught up with the results. So when I talk about capacity, I'm talking about your ability to stay connected with yourself while experiencing more of life, more expression, more success, more clients. Can you remain yourself while holding more of what you say you want? For some people, that looks like visibility. For others, it looks like money, because receiving more clients, charging more for your work, or finally getting paid well for something you care deeply about can actually activate the same patterns. The question is then rarely whether you want it. Instead is, does your system feel safe receiving it? Can you stay rooted in yourself when people are watching? Can you stay present when things actually start working? Because surprisingly, many people are far more prepared for failure than they are for success. And they've spent way more time and years preparing for things not to work. Very few have genuinely prepared for what happens if they do. And that's exactly what most people say that they want. And there's a tension there. The real work is building the capacity to hold the life, the expression, the impact, and the opportunities that you say you want. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but without abandoning yourself in the process. I think once I started seeing it in this way, another question emerged. And if the goal is not confidence and the goal is not becoming a perfected version of yourself, then who exactly are you trying to become? And maybe a better question is, what if the goal was never to become someone else at all? What if the whole premise that you need to fix yourself, improve yourself, optimize yourself into someone who finally deserves to be seen, what if that was the wrong direction entirely? What if growth is not about becoming someone else, but about becoming more fully expressed as the person you already are? And that's what I'll be talking about in the next episode.